right now. So we are all able to contribute during the session in these Jamboard links. It's probably easiest for you if you pull up your Jamboard and have it alongside your Zoom window so you're able to see both things at the same time. So you're able to contribute to Jamboard while also being able to participate in the Zoom. So while we're waiting for folks to settle in, if you would all navigate to the Jamboard, and you should be able to see that first after the slide with everyone's fun little logos. There's a slide um, that has a place for you all to sign in. So if you all could do a couple of things for me, that would be fantastic. Go ahead and change your Zoom name. So your name on Zoom to whatever you'd like others to know about you. So it should include, if you like, your name, your organization or your farm name, your location, where you're at in the world, and your pronouns, if you like. There are a lot of us on the call today, so if you would please mute yourself when not speaking. It will also make it easier for our language justice team to be able to communicate with folks. So please keep yourself muted when you're not speaking so we don't get a ton of background noise. If you would like to ask a question or get on deck to contribute, we ask that you use the raise hand feature in Zoom at the bottom of the Zoom bar. So if everyone has all of those things settled, we're happy to answer some questions as you need. You're welcome to drop them in the chat if you have them, but why don't we get started with a little bit of an icebreaker to see who we have in the room.
Kelsey, really quick, I'm seeing in the chat that our Jamboard has reached its limits of participants.
Oh, fantastic.
I'm going to go ahead and make a duplication of this Jamboard, and I'm going to drop that in the chat as well. So if you were closed out of the first Jamboard, just hang tight and I'll drop a second identical Jamboard in the chat.
Wow, Jamboard has limits. That was fun. Okay, thanks, Nicole. Okay, so Nicole's going to create a separate Jamboard. Can I get closer to my microphone? I don't know where my mic is on my computer, to be honest, but I can try to speak up a little bit. My voice is a little hoarse right now. I can also try putting my headphones in. Actually, that might be easier. Okay. Are you able to hear me a little bit better now? Does that seem more clear? Okay, great. Thanks. Okay, so let's go ahead and start with a little bit of an icebreaker to see who we have in the room. So you should see 3 polls in the right-hand area of the Whova page, or if you toggle to the polls tab. Awesome. So I think Tim is dropping some information on how to navigate to the polls tab there. So you should see a polls tab, and will you let us know if you are a farmer, a farm service provider, an aspiring farmer, someone who used to farm but no longer does, an academic, policy community advocate, or other. So if you do not fit neatly into one of those categories, you're welcome to share with us out loud if you want to take yourself off of mute, or share in the chat your other personal or professional identities. And I believe Nicole just shared this second link for another Jamboard. So if folks aren't able to access that first Jamboard link, you can click on that second Jamboard link. Awesome. I actually am not in the, is anyone in the poll who can confirm if this poll is operating or not? I am not there.
The poll is operating. I just filled it out myself. Hello guys, I'm Luis Vega.
Hi, welcome. Okay. I can move on to the second question. Poll is working. Great. Nicole, can you give me a thumbs up if I should move on to this next question? I just can't see any poll things. Okay, great. So if you are a farmer, what do you produce? vegetables, fruits and nuts, livestock, poultry, grains and legumes, dairy, or other. You're welcome to share with us in the chat too if you like, or if you want to take yourself off of mute, that would be great. Okay. Categories for conservation programs, research programs, crop insurance programs, including whole farm revenue, et cetera, regional food systems programs, farmer training and assistance programs. Awesome. I think Tim is sharing some of the results. Oh, cool. 30% of folks who participated are farmers. Awesome. 30% are farm service providers. Some folks who used to farm that are no longer able. Some academics. Nice. Awesome. I think a couple of you may be accidentally dropping me direct messages with your intros. If you want to go ahead and click to send that to everyone, that would be cool too. All right. So you're able to see those poll results if you look in your resources column on Whova, and I can't tell you exactly where that is because I'm not looking at Whova right now. But if you take a look at your resources column in Whova, you should be able to see all of the poll results and see what everyone shared. And I think Tim is going to be sharing those here as well. So wonderful. Thanks, everyone. We'll be breaking out into groups in a little while, so hopefully you'll get to know some of these folks a little bit better and hear a little bit more of where people are coming from. So this listening session is a collaboration between the American Farmland Trust, Groundswell Center for Local Food and Farming, Land for Good, Maine Farmland Trust, the National Sustainable Agriculture Coalition, National Young Farmers Coalition, and NESOG. You'll hear a little bit more from each of us later on today, and you'll find some opportunities to continue to plug into our work towards the end of the session. But first, we are going to start off by hearing a little bit more about what exactly is in the Farm Bill, why it's so important. We'll hear a little bit of Farm Bill 101 from some of the other presenters on this call. From there, we're going to split up into breakout groups, and we'll be talking a little bit more about the issues that are near and dear to our hearts, and our own experiences as farmers and food people. So we'll have about 20 minutes for that first breakout, and then we'll be doing it again, and we'll switch breakout groups, and you'll have an additional 20 minutes for a break, after a break for another breakout group. So if you have that one of the two Jamboards open, and you want to navigate to slides 3 and 4, you'll find a list of those breakout groups that you'll be able to choose from today. Take a look at those. You won't need to make that decision right this moment, I think, but pull up a chair to 2 different breakout group tables of your choice, one on slide 3 and then a different one on slide 4. Nicole, do you have any Jamboard notes?
Yeah, quick correction. People do need to make that decision right now because I will be manually assigning you to breakouts while we hear about the Farm Bill 101. So if everyone could just open your Jamboard and drop a sticky around the virtual table that you'd like to join your breakout sessions. They're not actually on slide 3 or 4 anymore because the slideshows have gotten a little jostled around.
Oops, thanks, Nicole.
That's not your fault, that was my fault.
So you do need to make the decision right now, everyone.
And if you cannot figure out how to access your Jamboard, or it just seems like too many moving parts, you can also just put your 2 choices in the chat, and I will do my best to assign everyone into the breakout of your choice.
Can you repeat the choices, please?
Sure, let's see, we'll pull them up. So if you can see these as well, if you take a look at the Jamboard, I'll read them to you now. It seems like that would be helpful for folks. So we have accessing and preserving farmland, We have climate change and your farming future. Your sustainable, then moving on to another one, your sustainable practices, conservation, soil health, and more. Your markets, local and regional, so food supply chains. We have a Spanish language breakout group. We have a group titled Your Skills, Research, Innovation, and Technical Assistance. We have an urban agriculture group. We have a group called Your Capital, Access to Credit for Land and Operations. And you will be able to, and if you all, I see you're starting to put your names in here. Fantastic, thank you. If you would make sure that the name that you're putting on these Jamboards matches the name that you have in the Zoom, that would be really helpful as Nicole separates folks out into breakout groups.
Yeah. So I gotta go take a COVID test. I feel fine. I'm perfectly.
If folks could mute, that would be fantastic. Or if one of the other people who has the ability to mute people would do that, that would be great too. So if you take a look at those Jamboard slides, Nicole said that they're a little bit jumbo now that we switched, that we have 2 Jamboards, but just put your name on a sticky and put them next to 2 of these groups. So hopefully that makes sense. If there are other questions in the chat that I can't see, just let me know. Okay. It looks like there's a question from Gabby. You can go ahead and ask if you like.
Sí. Sí, hola, buenos días.
Hello, good morning. The Spanish group is going to have all of these topics, or what is the Spanish group gonna be focused on? What are gonna be the themes that are gonna be covered in the Spanish speaking group? If you could please share.
That's a good question. Thank you.
I can talk about
that. Okay, thank you.
Sí, Gaby, ¿prefieres en español o en inglés?
Gabby, do you prefer in Spanish or English?
Okay, yeah. I don't know.
Whatever you prefer.
I'm gonna say in English just for that sake, for the translators. So most of what we're gonna talk about is what Farm Bill programs Spanish speaker farmers are using and the barriers to access those programs, with a special focus on conservation programs. But we only have like 3 or 4 prompt questions for that session. So we can talk about other things like the other sessions, and every session is going to be done twice. So if you want to go to another session, you can go and then come back to the Spanish session for the second round, or vice versa. I don't know if Kelsey has said that already, that we're going to do every session twice.
Hopefully that was helpful in answering that question. Awesome. Okay. So I'm going to continue as you all keep putting your names in these Jamboards. That would be great. There will be a bit of overlap between the groups, and you will have an opportunity to share additional feedback after the session. So don't worry about finding the exact perfect spot. If you're able to sign up for whatever feels most important or relevant to you, that would be wonderful. If you have any questions, you can put them in the chat and we will answer you and help get you to the relevant breakout. If you're unable to figure out how to put a sticky note next to your preferred breakouts, we can, if you put both of your choices in the chat, we can add you to those breakouts. We can add a sticky for you. Okay. Lots of moving pieces. I know everyone. Thank you so much for hanging with us. I am going to send it over to Ariana and Mara now to go through a Farm Bill 101 with us, to do a little bit of setting the stage.
Great, thank you, Kelsey. So hi, everybody. My name is Mara. I use she, her pronouns. And I'm going to be talking about an introduction to the Farm Bill with Ariana. Ariana, are you going to be controlling the slides as I talk?
If it's okay with Natalie, Natalie's doing great so far, so I
Okay,
can
okay,
leave it
good,
with
good.
that. Thanks, Natalie.
Awesome. Okay, so I'm just going to jump right in. We're going to move through this piece very quickly, but it is very important and foundational that we get this historical context of the Farm Bill. And we encourage everybody to do more research if this information is new to you. So the very important piece of all of this is that we want this history to guide us as we envision a more equitable future for farming. As we know, agriculture in the US today is built on a legacy of stolen indigenous land and stolen African labor. The European concepts of private property were introduced into North America with colonization. So from the very inception of this country, our agriculture systems were cemented with structural racism through policy. From unfair treaties that forced indigenous people off of their land to homestead acts that gave that land away to white families to farm. Policy alongside state-sponsored genocide supported the transfer of land stewardship from indigenous people into management by primarily white settlers, white men. Meanwhile, the economic system of slavery provided white landowning farmers with immense wealth through generations of forced labor with accompanying brutality and loss of life. Not to mention the use of labor of enslaved people that generated trillions of dollars for white landowners. So throughout US history, federal policies continue to actively uphold the interests of white people, moving from systems that directly provided resources to white farmers to those that explicitly prohibit all other groups from owning land and accumulating wealth. And we know that land is deeply tied to the accumulation of wealth and political power. So the systems of agriculture that European Americans practice on this stolen land at scales made possible only by using the labor of enslaved people, all of this quickly started to degrade the land that had sustained indigenous people for millennia. All of these practices together have led to pretty extreme environmental catastrophes like the Dust Bowl and paralleling economic imbalances that powered the Great Depression soon after that. So I'm going to stop there and tap Ariana in to continue on with a little bit more history about the first inception of the Farm Bill and FDR.
Thank you so much, Mara. Yeah, covering a lot of ground really quickly, and happy to take questions in just a second. But yeah, just to pick up where Mara left off, the very first Farm Bill, so we're here to talk about Farm Bills. That first Farm Bill came as a response to the Great Depression and the Dust Bowl. It was one of FDR's, Franklin Delano Roosevelt's New Deal policies. And it addressed both the overproduction that was happening on farms and the resulting environmental and economic problems, both for farmers and poverty, both on and off farms. And the very first Farm Bills addressed conservation by helping farmers put land aside and return it to a more natural state, and also helped balance the farm economy by paying farmers both to put some land aside and also for surplus produce to be redistributed to people who didn't have enough to eat, and also by setting price floors, basically a minimum wage for farmers. And this did help mitigate some of the most severe challenges of the Dust Bowl era, but it didn't address the underlying institutional racism that had really started the problem. And at the same time, the Farm Bill and other New Deal programs enacted at the same time also really upheld and continued the structural racism that had started that was a piece of that pattern, by explicitly excluding communities of color as a political move in order to get support from from senators who were otherwise opposed to those programs, but they used basically a racial bribe to get that support. And so there are other examples from New Deal policies like minimum wage laws and Social Security. Both of those were New Deal programs that are obviously still in existence today, but at their inception and still to this day excluded domestic workers, like workers that work inside people's homes, and farm workers explicitly, because at the time most of those workers were African American, and so that was a way to use colorblind language by just talking about jobs, but was intentionally racist policy. And those racist impacts have continued as those policies have continued to play out, and so the local offices of the U.S. Department of Agriculture, or USDA, which deliver those brand new Farm Bill programs and continue to do that today, the folks working in those offices got a lot of discretion over how to administer the new programs. And so because the people working in those offices at the very beginning and so much, like largely to this day, were white folks, many discriminated against their neighbors of color, refusing to give them loans and other services, which is a major driver of land loss for Black farmers and also Indigenous farmers and mixed farmers. And that was a tactic that white farmers used to acquire more land for themselves, because they often ended up getting that land once farmers of color were forced off. And we have a picture in the lower right on this slide of Timothy Pigford, who was the lead plaintiff in a landmark lawsuit, Pigford versus Glickman, which was a class action lawsuit where Black farmers sued the USDA, and it resulted in a massive groundbreaking settlement of millions of dollars, which USDA had to pay back to Black farmers who had lost their land as a result of racism at USDA. And there were similar class action lawsuits for other groups of Indigenous and Latinx farmers as well, with also really large settlements. Just a sort of way of putting some numbers on what that land transfer and that loss looked like. And encourage you to do some Googling if that info is new. But basically that brings us to today, like as a result of those practices and the systemic inequities that led to them in the first place and that continue on, farmers of color are super underrepresented in ag and tend to have smaller farms. And then at the same time, the ag programs that we're going to spend a lot of time today talking about, like conservation programs and farmer training programs, some of these, especially conservation and crop insurance and subsidy programs, are built so that if your farm is bigger, the more acres you farm, the more money you get, the more you benefit. And in that way, even completely, on the surface, colorblind programs that don't have much to say about race at all, or even have some set-asides for farmers of color, end up benefiting mostly white farmers, because white farmers, like myself, I guess I never introduced myself. I'm Ariana Taylor Stanley, she, her. I farm in central New York State, own most of the land. And just to kind of drive that point home, the next slide has a map which illustrates the enrollment in the Conservation Stewardship Program, which is a major working lands conservation program that we're going to talk about today. These are old data. In fact, we probably have an updated version of this map. But as you can see, the percentage of farmers enrolled in CSP in most states that are what USDA refers to as socially disadvantaged farmers, which is their term for farmers of color, is 0. Most states have no farmers enrolled in this powerful program that gives you money to pay for conservation on your farm. So it gives you a sense of like the way inequity continues to play out. And a sense of why we are having this conversation. We want to know about the barriers. We know that this is like how the system works, and we're gonna use this lens of understanding like what the Farm Bill is, how it was shaped by structural racism and systemic inequities, and talk a little bit more about what's in the bill and what it covers. But I want to encourage you to continue to hold that lens throughout. So I'm gonna pass it back to Mara.
Oh, sorry. Could folks please slow down for interpretation? Thank you so much.
Thank you. Apologies. I always go too fast. Okay, passing it back to Mara to talk more about what's in the bill.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Ariana. Okay, so this is a very important part. It might surprise a lot of us to learn that there are some things that are not in this bill, but I'll start with what is in it. We have got farm commodity programs. We've got crop insurance, programs for conservation, credit access, forestry, anti-hunger programs. We've got rural development, research, agriculture trade programs, and some internal food aid. Sorry. And internal food aid. All of these things are in the Farm Bill as of now. And it might surprise some of you to learn that there are some things that are not. There is no farm or food worker rights, public lands and grazing rights, no irrigation water rights, FDA food safety, no renewable fuel standards, tax issues. The list goes on. There's a lot of things that are still missing from the Farm Bill. And I want to open up the floor to you all. If you want to write something in the chat about what are your thoughts on what's missing from the Farm Bill? Did it surprise you? Is any of this information new, or did you already know this? It can kind of shock people sometimes, but we'd like to know what you're thinking.
And just to add on to what Mara said too, many of the things in the what's out column are not, they aren't in the Farm Bill, but they are in other pieces of policy that is enacted. That's just that they're covered in other policy vehicles. So we name them in part just to clarify that in a conversation focused on what's in the Farm Bill, we won't be focused on these issues, even though they might be really important and relevant, because we'll need to advocate for them through other like campaign work.
Great, thank you, Ariana. Let's see, I believe the next part we're going to talk about now is breaking down the funding of the Farm Bill. And I believe you're going to pick that up, Ariana.
Yes, thank you, Mara. So this is a slide that, at least on my screen, is a little bit maybe harder to read with the screen share. So of course you're welcome to use one of the Jamboard links if it's helpful for you to see. Oh, also we're getting zoomed, thanks. No, okay, we'll work on the tech. But just to give you a little bit of background, the Farm Bill is a lot of money. The current Farm Bill, which was passed in 2018, is estimated to spend $867.2 billion, billion with a B, over the next 10 years, which is how they calculate that that money. Of that money, the biggest portion, that green chunk, which is over 75% of the Farm Bill, is actually doesn't go directly to farmers. It goes to nutrition programs, which of course affects farmers because it allows people to be able to afford to buy food. But it's worth pointing out that that is by far the biggest chunk of Farm Bill spending. Because those programs are what are called entitlement programs, meaning they expand to meet the number of people who qualify for them. This vast amount of funding reflects the magnitude of poverty in this country and the fact that our labor laws don't mean that working people can afford food. So that's a reflection of that. And the rest of the Farm Bill spending goes to programs that more directly impact farmers. The red and yellow pieces of the pie are what we often think about as like farm subsidies, commodity programs, and subsidized crop insurance programs, which are the next biggest pieces of the Farm Bill. These are where we see a lot of those inequities we were just talking about, and they are probably not what we are going to focus on today. I mean, curious if folks want to raise your hand if any of you have used one of these programs. But for the most part, these programs are less accessible to smaller scale farms. So we probably won't have a lot to say about them in our conversation today. Conservation programs, on the other hand, which is a relatively small piece of that pie, but is the single biggest source of federal funding for conservation on privately owned land, makes up 7% of our Farm Bill spending. And I'm hoping that we can have a really good conversation about our conservation programs and how they're working for folks. And then basically everything else we're going to talk about today that, programs you may have used or know about that may even be funding your time to be here at this conference to begin with. Those are all less than 1% of the overall funding. And those include everything from farmer training, what little USDA does have in the way of specific programs aimed to support farmers of color, lots else, credit programs, and research, lots more. So that is about where the money goes. And yeah, I'm gonna be passing it back to Nicole. Thanks to folks who have started to put questions in the chat. Maybe we can take a few questions and then we'll move into the listening part. But I'm going to take a second and read the chat. Yeah, we had questions about SNAP and WIC. Yes, SNAP is nutrition. It's my understanding that that WIC is covered in the Child Nutrition Act, which is separate from the Farm Bill. And questions about more folks wanting to talk about what's missing. Yes, which we will continue on in the breakouts. Yes, and then there's a question about where the money is going and how, after the racial justice uprisings last year, money hasn't been as impactful as it could have been. Yeah, and so some of our many Farm Bill programs do go to nonprofit organizations to provide programming. And so that's a good question, is how folks spend those dollars. And I think it varies from organization to organization. Some Farm Bill programs like conservation go directly to farmers. So oh, okay, thank you for clarifying, Patrice. Maybe I misunderstood Patrice's question. Yeah, some very good questions here too about tapping into nutrition programs to reduce hunger. And then, yeah, thank you, Gabby, for the comment saying level of racism and xenophobia received at USDA and FSA offices who made their experience of applying to those programs as a farmer very traumatic. Yeah, thanks for sharing that. Okay. Feel free to keep questions going and we can try and answer in the chat. And I'm going to pass it to Nicole now to send us off into our breakouts.
Okay, turns out I think I need just one more minute. I have one more breakout to assign. And just a note to everyone on breakouts, this was a really interesting process for me. I've never done assigning breakouts on such a large scale, so please be patient with me. Some people may end up in not your first choice, or there was some moving around while I was assigning. So if you changed your mind, you may not end up in the breakout you wanted. And if you're in a breakout that really is not relevant to you at all, well, let me back up. There's a lot of, there will be a lot of overlap, and a lot of issues that we're all experiencing, you know, touch a couple of different groups. So if you're in a group that seems relevant but isn't your first choice, it might still be okay. But if you're in a group that actually you don't care about at all, just rejoin the main room and then chat with me, and I will get you to the group that you want. So let me just take one more second. Okay, I'm almost done. This was a real thing. Okay, I'm sending you all the breakouts. And again, if you're somewhere you don't want to be, just let me know by returning to the main room, and private chat me so we don't interrupt the Spanish language breakout that will be happening in the main room. Okay, so go team. And facilitators, if you're also not assigned to a room, just let me know, but you should all be assigned. I think the only major change, no, Ariana, you're now facilitating a markets group, but I think everyone else is in the breakout that you thought you would be in, hopefully. Okay. Okay. Okay, so if you are still in the main room and you have not been invited to a breakout, can you just private message me what breakout you'd like to attend, and I will assign you there. Ooh. I don't think I can add people to breakouts after I've already created the breakouts. What a shocking bit of troubleshooting that I didn't anticipate. Oh, I can. Okay. Okay, bear with me, guys. And Spanish, the main, could I leave the breakout groups open for people to choose their own? Maybe, I don't know how to do that though. Okay, I'm gonna try to just keep assigning people. And thank you everyone for bearing with this complicated process. Meanwhile, I think the Spanish language breakout group that's in the main session can get started. And I'm gonna keep assigning people.
Para los que hablamos español, ¿podemos empezar?
For whoever speaks Spanish, can we start?
No te escucho, Vanessa.
I couldn't hear you. Let's take advantage of the time. Muy bien.
Está grabando. No sé si...
It's recording. Should we stop the recording?
No, no tengo problema.
What do you prefer? No, I don't have a problem. Just asking. It's just that it's going to stay recorded.
Cuando quieras.
Whenever you want. Well, what I have on my list is to ask who is in the room, who is in the virtual room, and for us to utilize the platform of Jamboard to put our answers. I am putting it in the chat.
Hi everyone, welcome back. Oh, let me start my video. Welcome back. I know that everything is not enough time, but we are doing our best. And it's been great to hear all the great discussions happening so far. I hope you were able to get a drink of water and take care of yourself during that brief break. We're gonna do a second round of breakouts. You can feel free to select the same breakout you were in the first time or a different breakout if you didn't get the one you wanted or you would like to discuss a different topic. Our amazing tech support Shia has a better way to do breakouts the second time. So instead of me trying to manually assign you all, I'm going to pass it over to Shia, who will describe a way for folks to self-select the breakouts you'd like.
Thanks, Nicole. Yeah, so it'll be a similar process, but on your screen, you'll see a list of all the rooms, and then you can select which room you would like to go into. If you are staying for the Spanish language breakout room, you can stay in the main room and not select a room. So I'm going to go ahead and open them now.
How do I get my name on Urban Ag?
I can add you in there.
You can also, Patrice or everyone, if you scroll down, you'll see the breakout rooms in progress screen popped up. If you scroll all the way down along the right in blue, it says join. You can pick which group you'd like to join.
Okay, thank you.
Got it, honey.
But
yeah, this time folks can just choose your own breakout groups. If you can't figure out how to add yourself, feel free to put in the chat which breakout group you'd like to add, and Shia or I will get you set up. And again, the Spanish language breakout group will stay in the main room.
Hey, Nicole.
Yes.
I'm still in the main room, and I am clicking on the market local regional food system, and it's not letting me get in. I don't know what's going on.
Okay, I will assign you.
Thank you.
And
hello.
I'm not in urban agriculture yet, so.
Oh no, didn't work. Tech is weird today.
Can someone add me to access in preserving farmland?
Would you just, if you want to be added to a breakout.
There we go. Thank you, Natalie.
If you'd like to be added to a certain breakout, just put it in the chat. So then we'll be able to see you and get to you. And don't private message me, just put it in the main chat so that other people, if they see you first, can also assign you. Thank you.
Thank you. Quizás, Vanessa, podemos hablar de acceso a la tierra.
Vanessa, maybe we can talk to the access to spaces. What are the mechanism in the federal level that
Thank you so much, everyone. Welcome back. I hope your breakout sessions were helpful to your work. I hope you learned something. I hope you shared something. We're gonna take the next 15 minutes or so to debrief from our groups and share a little bit of what we learned with each other. Can someone go ahead and reshare the Jamboards in the chat? And folks, please remember to reselect your language channel if you have not done so already.
Would you like me to screen share, Nicole?
I don't think so, because I think
great.
what we're gonna do, thank you though, we will screen share, but I think what we're gonna do is take a few minutes to read through some of the Jamboard slides from the breakout. So this is
Heading
like
out? Give me that, baby.
if you could just make sure to mute yourself if you're not
I love you.
currently speaking. We're getting a little bit of background noise. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a few seconds and go through the slides from the breakout groups. We're just going to read a little bit from what other groups wrote, or you can take the time to kind of integrate what you learned and shared in your own breakout and take a few minutes to journal. We're going to take 3 minutes to read the breakout slides, journal on our own, and kind of like do like a virtual gallery walk where we see what other groups have talked about and thought about. So we'll have 2 minutes to review. 2 or 3 minutes to review the breakout slides. And I will, they haven't been shared in the chat yet. I'm sharing the breakout slides in the chat. Just do a little learning from other groups. Okay, I know there was barely enough time to scratch the surface, but we are running a little bit behind schedule, which is to be expected. So if you can toggle back or just, hold 2 windows simultaneously. And now, Natalie, you can go ahead and share your screen. We're gonna start on slide 12, which is called Report Back. What did you learn? If anyone would like to share, we'll just do popcorn style. And if you want to share something, use the raise the hand feature, and I will make sure you have a chance to share. You can also share on a sticky note directly in the Jamboard. What did you learn today? And I'm curious if there were any themes or patterns that you noticed from either of your breakout groups. Again, there are a couple ways to share. You can unmute yourself and share out loud. You can share on the Jamboard directly or share your thoughts in the chat. Something you learned today, a theme or a pattern that you noticed, or an insight that you have from one of your breakouts.
I can jump in there. I've been bouncing in and out as I'm going from room to room, and there's some interesting conversations, and I didn't get a chance to really contribute to a lot of them, but I ended up putting it in the chat. I can add it to this, but talking about potential programs to address things with local food system issues and the regional food system utility concept that Dr. John Eichert has been writing about for a number of years and presenting on, I believe has a lot of potential to be adapted to various communities and to our needs. And I'm trying to pursue that here in my region. Oh, I'm Ani, sorry, I'm bad about not introducing myself. Here in the ancestral home of the Miami people in Fort Wayne, Indiana. I've been talking with Dr. Eichert for a little while about the community food utility concept, and he has not seen anyone actually pursue this model for a food system, but it's based on, the way that rural electric and internet cooperatives work. And I'm not an agricultural economist, but as best as I can understand his writings and discussing with him, I think there's a lot of potential for this model to be successful. And the opposition that I've encountered has been mostly that, the institutions that exist don't really look well on cooperative type models and people powered things. And
thanks so much. If it's all right with you, we just don't have a ton of time, so I'm gonna give someone else the chance to share an insight, but feel free to put more about that concept that sounds really interesting into the chat. I see Gabby with their hand raised.
Sí, gracias, Nicole. Nosotros estuvimos.
Yes, thank you, Nicole. We were in the group in Spanish, and there I was able to hear the experiences of a farmer, Mario, in Connecticut, and the levels of discrimination that he has received, the fact that he doesn't receive any support, the lack of support, and to be able to understand what agricultures need, and the understanding that we have to expand our concept, what are farmers, what is farming, and what is agriculture, and what is the system that they need. And we have to listen to ourselves and to be able to know when a person is not the best person to provide these services, and to look for the support of community leaders that are doing the work. Thank you.
Great, thanks for sharing, folks. I'm seeing some insights coming in on the Jamboard and in the chat. So I see someone noticed a theme of limited support for cooperative models. Someone was sharing about serious drought and water issues in New York due to climate change, which is really unstabilizing. Someone noticed a theme of discrimination and lack of understanding of support and listening for needs of farmers and community members working on farms. I see another theme of discrimination, lack of understanding what farmers need. Technical assistance can play a crucial role. Farmers are seeking more federal lending support to purchase land. Feels like lacking oxygen to dive into the weeds of what's wrong with the current systems. Coming together like this helps. Ooh, you guys are sharing a lot of really juicy stuff. It's so exciting to see all these learnings, and I know that we're just scratching the very surface of what needs to be shared and what insights folks have. So feel free to keep putting your thoughts into the Jamboard on slide 12, and we will keep learning from this, and it will keep it available after the session, so we can keep learning from each other and keep kind of sharing our thoughts. I'm going to move us on to slide 13. And let's take a second to share what questions you still have, like coming out of today. What are you left with wanting to learn more about? What made you more confused than you were before, or what kind of scratched the surface of an idea that you're digging for? And again, feel free to share out loud. Raise your hand to share, or put your thoughts in the chat or directly in the Jamboard. Okay, I'm going to take everyone's silence as an indication that we explained everything and everyone knows everything about the Farm Bill now.
I'm having trouble finding the right Jamboard.
Um,
I don't know if anybody else is having that. Just wanted to share.
Thanks, Brian. I'm sure Ariana or Natalie, can one of you drop the main Jamboard chats in the links in the chat? Yeah, this is a learning curve for the facilitation crew on the limitations of Jamboard. So it's certainly not ideal that we have this many Jamboards going at once, but we did not realize their limitations. So folks are wondering, are there ways to access land resources without waiting on the government? Folks are wondering what are the plans for being proactive in lobbying for the 2022 Farm Bill? Folks are looking to learn more about CSP, the Conservation Stewardship Program, and food utility. How is the FSA working to build trust with farmers of color? $1 million question. What potential and whether FSA county committees are able to influence and hold accountable local FSA offices. These are amazing questions. And it's helpful to see your questions after the event so we can, tailor follow-up or just know kind of where we want to go this Farm Bill cycle with what folks are left wondering about. So keep dropping your questions into the chat and into the Jamboard. But I have one more slide and we're almost out of time. So let's move on to slide 14. And these are, of course, insufficient because everything is, but they're also quick and easy. So we just had a couple of suggested easy next steps for Farm Bill advocacy. Oh, and there's some very nice lines. So some things that you can do immediately after this session, find out who your legislators are if you don't already know. Everyone here has two senators and one representative who supposedly works for you. So track them down, find out who they are. And then if you are interested in kind of following along with them for the Farm Bill cycle, because every senator and representative has a role to play in voting on this and shaping the legislation, sign up for their email lists, follow them on social media, learn where they stand on the issues, learn when they have public events that you could show up to and introduce yourself. And then if you want to take it a step further, you can call or email them and introduce yourself. You can do this either with an agenda, like I want to tell you about this thing that I learned about or this thing that I'm experiencing on my farm that's important to me for the Farm Bill. Or you can just say, I'm a farmer in your district, I'm just looking to build relationships with, and I know the Farm Bill is coming up. If you want, you can invite them out to your farm. Legislators love meeting farmers. They love seeing what the food work that's going on in their districts. And it's a great way to build connections and put yourself as a resource for them for the next Farm Bill. So I'll take a pause. And are there any, I'm wondering if folks on this call are thinking about next steps that you'd like to take after the session, or any resources you need. If you're like, I can't do that because of blah, blah, blah. Like, I don't understand this, or I'm afraid of this, or I'm still confused about this. Are there any next steps that folks are thinking of taking or need more support to feel comfortable taking? Again, feel free to share out loud in the chat or in a sticky note on the slide. I'm seeing less talk and more actions. What kinds of actions? So I see a couple of pluses for more action and less talking. I see one question about wanting more advocacy and lobbying toolkits. available for farmers. We can certainly share those in a follow-up. Okay, I'm out of time. So feel free to keep sharing your thoughts on this slide. If you're interested in more resources or have some ideas for what you'd like to do next, you know, if you're looking to connect with your legislators, if you're looking to get involved in lobbying for the Farm Bill, you can share that here. And I'm going to pass it over to Mara and Ariana, I think, who are going to come up with a quick closing exercise to close us out. Oh, and on slide in between closeout and this, on the next slide, on slide 15, there's keep in touch, which is just a list of mailing lists of folks who put on this listening session. So that's a great way to find out about action opportunities coming up around the Farm Bill and other issues. And you can sign up for any of them that are local to your area or whichever ones particularly resonate with you if you're interested. I don't think any of them are high traffic lists, but we all will be keeping a pulse on different issues within the next Farm Bill. Okay, thanks everyone. Over to you, Mara and Ariana, to close us out.
Thank you so much, Nicole. So before you all leave for the day, we're just so excited that all of you are here. I connected with a lot of you and excited to continue cultivating those relationships. On the very last, well, not very last slide, but I think it's slide number 16, we have a closing activity. Ariana has put up a couple of sticky notes here. And we want to get kind of like a visual tally of which of these themes and priorities that came up during these meetings. We want to get a visual tally of what is most important to you. So you can either put that in the chat and we'll add it to the board, or if you're in the board, over on the left-hand side, there is a little circle shape. If you click it, you can add a circle next to each sticky note that you feel like was a priority or a theme that came up for you that you would like to be a priority in the upcoming Farm Bill session. Yeah, anything else you want to add, Ariana?
Oh, that's perfect. Thank you, Mara. And you know, there were a lot of stickies. I tried to consolidate some big themes, but I probably missed a bunch. So if your main take home of like what you want to change in the next Farm Bill cycle did not end up on one of these stickies, please add it in a concise way so that other folks can also emphasize it. But it looks like folks are in here and doing some voting with their stickers. So I'm loving that. So far, I see a lot of action around addressing racial discrimination at USDA. And a little bit of action on most other ones, and feel free to add your own stickies. It's really been incredible to hear from so many of you about what policy looks like in your work and what you want to change. Really appreciate everyone's contributions.
That concludes our listening session. Thank you all so much for coming. This has been an amazing turnout. It's been so great to learn and share with you all today. The Jamboard will stay open and we'll drop it in the resources section of the Whova so you can return to it later. There's also a couple of slides at the end that are labeled like parking lot and feedback. So feel free to leave anything like anonymously that you want to say about the session. Any more ideas you have, questions you have, etc. And I'll work to populate the resources section of the Whova over the weekend. And this will certainly not be the last you're hearing of us throughout the Farm Bill cycle. Thank you, everyone, and enjoy the rest of the NESOG conference.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.